Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. I'm joined by Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins to announce the completion and the signing into law of the Westchester County 2024 budget. I'm joined today by members of our executive team, Joan McDonald, our Director of Operations, Emily Saltzman, our Deputy Director of Operations, Larry Sewell, who's our Budget Director, other members of our executive team, and I'm joined by the vast majority of the Westchester County Board of Legislators whose action today approved the document. In a few minutes, I'm going to invite them to speak individually on different topics, however they want to cover it, but we're joined by the Chair of the Board of Legislators, Vedat Gashi, the Vice Chair of the Board of Legislators, Nancy Barr, the Majority Leader, Jose Alvarado, the Majority Whip, Tyree Woodson Samuels, the Minority Leader, Margaret Cunzio, and the Minority Whip, James Nolan. I think I know my legislators pretty well. But before we begin anything else, first of all, let me extend to all of our Jewish brothers and sisters a very happy Hanukkah. As we have the various Nights of the Lights going through that, we hope that you have a joyous time with your family in the Festival of Lights. And as we anticipate for everyone who celebrates a very Merry Christmas, followed by a joyous Kwanzaa and a Happy New Year, which is why we adopted this budget, so that we would have a Happy New Year, begin the year on time. I highlight that it is not as simple as it may seem to have a budget done on time and balanced. We know that I serve the state legislature. Those who are familiar with the state, it is not always possible for the state to complete their budget on time. Sometimes it's a month late. There was one year during my tenure where it was not completed until August, and they needed continuing resolutions to operate. In general, though the state has had budgets relatively close to on time, the federal government has not adopted an on-time budget in recent memory. They operate on continuing resolutions that provide enough legal authority for the government to continue to operate. But here in Westchester County, we have always found a way to complete the budget process on time with a balanced budget. The budget will be reviewed by State Controller Tom DiNapoli's staff, and they will assert, hopefully, I assume they will, that it is a balanced budget done appropriately and legally so that it is in effect for the first day of January of 2024. A budget is not fixed in stone. What we have done is identified funding levels of revenue and allocations for expenditure, but things will change as the year goes along. And I think it's incumbent to highlight that the legislators in adopting the budget are prepared to amend the budget as may be necessary. There may be an additional need that we did not identify at the budget time. There may be a need that is greater as we get into the year. There may be a good idea for something that comes along during the year. We may have, on the other side of the coin, surprise issues that might come out of the state budget, might come out of the federal government that we will have to adjust to, and that the legislature and the executive branch will work together to try to address those issues when they arise. And we do that in the spirit of cooperation and mutual respect. The members of the board who are here and those that voted for it and those that didn't vote for it, we're each individuals with our own set of ideas about what we'd like to see. And there is nothing wrong with disagreement, and there's nothing wrong with having a point of view that's not all the same. In fact, that's what democracy is. But in the give and take, if there's basic respect between all of us as individuals, then as those things arise, we will work together. We will find a way to resolve whatever is thrown at us as we have done over these few years. I'm very fortunate to have with me an outstanding team. I've mentioned their names: Ken Jenkins, the Deputy County Executive. There are others in this room who are part of the executive team. And I work with them, and I rely on their professionalism. All of the commissioners, the deputy commissioners, and the people who do the work every day, the 4,500 or so employees for this government. And they are professionals in their field of endeavor in ways that I am not. Someone in this team knows how to run a prison. Someone on this team knows how to manage a bus system. Somebody in this team knows how to treat sewage. I am not that person. But together within this budgetary process, we hopefully have allocated the resources necessary for all those things to happen. And having been a legislator myself, the members of the Board of Legislators are the foot soldiers in the field. When something happens, if it happens either poorly or well, they're the first people to hear it from their constituents when they go to a local meeting, when they grocery shop in their home community. Someone will come up to them as a representative of county government and tell them something they're unhappy about. It would be nice if they told us as frequently when they're happy, but we understand human nature being what it is. We all of us, I do certainly, take for granted certain types of things. This budget that has been approved is a $2.4 billion budget. As we've said before, the capital budget was submitted to the board in October. The operating budget was submitted to the board in November. We met the deadline dates that we're required to by charter. The board had an opportunity to review in committee, and then through some various other meetings that are scheduled, caucus meetings and so forth, to have discussions about the budget. The public hearings were 3 public hearings done by the Board of Legislators. We as an administration did a public forum prior to the submission of the budget, so there have been at least 4 opportunities for residents to come in person to express their feelings about what they wanted to see us prioritize. And that is not a static process. The Board of Legislators meets, generally speaking, twice a month, and they have citizens to be heard throughout the course of time. All of their legislative meetings, committee meetings, are open to the public, and you can stream it at home, or you can come to White Plains and watch them in person if you want. And of course, we have a variety of sessions, all of us together, done coffees and conversations where I join a legislator in their district, and we meet people at a firehouse or at a diner or in one of those contexts, and people can also question us and try to get some answers. So this is a dynamic environment. The $2.4 billion budget addresses all of those different operating departments. This is the same property tax levy that was levied a year ago. So in that regard, for general property tax levy, there is no increase. There are roughly a half dozen communities in the county that are not part of any special district, either the refuse district, the sewer districts. My friend Erica Pierce represents most of those communities in the northeastern corner of the county. So if there is no property tax levy increase, that is the final word in North Salem, I believe in Lewisboro, and a couple of the other communities in that area. Most of the rest of the county's residents fall within the refuse district and one of the sewer districts. And each of those sewer districts are of different sets of assets and liabilities, and each one of them has a different budget that's structured to them. Those districts had an increase. They're small in absolute numbers. Percentages might hit you as a large number, but in terms of absolute dollars, they're much, much smaller than the general property tax levy. But we've been clear about this all along. We have frozen, as a group, we have frozen the property tax levy. The special district levies are paid for by a different group of ratepayers. So the tax-exempt entities that do not pay tax do pay sewer rates, refuse rates, in essence, as a user fee type of structure. And when we get the equalization rates, then we will find out exactly what each community pays as part of what is in general a 0% increase in the property tax levy. When I was a legislator, we'd have this listed as soon as they came out, and we went to it just as if we were college students looking to see our grades on a test. You look for your social security number. Did you get a B? Did you get a C? I didn't get too many A's, so did you get an A? And some communities will do better than others on the basis of the equalization rate and on the basis of the size of their assessment roll, property tax assessment roll, as a percentage of the total aggregate assessment roll of all of the communities together. There are 19 towns, 6 cities. That aggregate roll, the percentage in each of those communities, what percentage is North Salem of that total, what percentage is Yonkers of that total, and that is the amount of the overall tax levy that gets allocated to those communities, of which they divide up amongst the tax-paying population. It's complicated, but we understand the system, and our finance and budget people in both the 8th and 9th floor are familiar with these things. That will give you your localized rate for what's happened in the budget. We have a AAA bond rating, once again. We have all worked hard. Our professional staff has worked very hard. I want to compliment again Larry Sewell and Karen Hablow, our Director of Finance. But the decisions that helped us regain the AAA bond after having lost it 6 years ago at the end of the fiscal year 2017, to regain it in the eyes of Fitch Rating Agency, took discipline. And part of that discipline is being able to put into our budget those types of expenditures that can be justified and afforded in our world. And that's not always so easy, because all of us have demands and asks and needs of different people, and we try to satisfy that to the best extent possible. What we've avoided doing is using one-shot efforts to balance this budget. A one-shot effort would be we have a piece of land or an asset, we sell it. We get X million dollars from it, and it plugs that much of a hole in the budget. It's fine for this year, but there is no equivalent sale to do next year. We have a structural deficit in the budget. When we borrow to pay for pension costs, or when we borrow to pay for certiorari payments, which are reimbursements to businesses that have come in and they've been able to plead down their tax bill based on their revenue, when we borrow to do that, we are adding to the interest and the overall cost of those things year over year. And there were times when that was done by this government, but now we have stepped away from that the last 2 years, I believe 3 years perhaps, in which we pay as we go. reimbursement. We're not borrowing money to pay for something that we should be able to pay as we go along. Those types of actions represent to the rating agencies a positive result. Fitch gave us a AAA bond rating. The other two agencies, Standard & Poor's and Moody's, have us at the next highest level, AA1 or AA+, with a positive outlook. And that is ground that we had to make up from a few years ago, because the budgets that we inherited, that we've worked through, almost all the members of the Board of Legislators are new as of 2017. Ben Boykin, Catherine Borgia, Catherine Parker, there may be somebody else we here prior to that period of time. But all the rest of us are new from 2017 on, and we've had to struggle to get to this point, and I'm very proud that we did. This budget includes many different priorities that we think are important. It includes fully funding our police operations at the highest level that we have. We have also fully funded our public health function. We've fully funded our mental health function. We've fully funded our parks and recreation, our Department of Environmental Facilities, our corrections department, right on down the line. This budget puts money aside, again, to continue our initiative for black maternal health. We know that African-American mothers have had poor outcomes in the health of their children. We have adopted a program that we hope will help, and we could expand it with additional resources, but we maintain that funding into the new year. We support with $3 million to our federally qualified neighborhood health centers, of which they are spread out all across the county from Mount Vernon to Peekskill. And those health centers help reach the underserved communities, those communities which we, again, are trying to help have the best possible outcomes. And we're not the main funding of that group, but for many years the county did not fund those neighborhood health centers. And now we're back in the business of trying to be helpful. We've put money in this budget, $1.5 million for tobacco cessation. We have in Westchester County one of the lowest levels of tobacco consumption in the state. We had a large discussion about this a year ago, but we're committed to trying to continue to reduce that, particularly for those young people under the age of 21, where it is illegal to have smoking or vaping products, to try to give them further education and encouragement to stay away from smoking, and it will save them a lifelong threat to their health. We put money in this budget to assist food insecurity. $1.3 million is in this budget for that purpose. We put $5 million in this budget to help support the many valid nonprofit organizations. This is a subject of great advocacy by my friends on the Board of Legislators. They each have a knowledge of how much these not-for-profits do that are valuable. We do not intend to do the work through the county employees workforce to do certain of these projects. We go to the Child Care Council. We go to different other organizations to do these things. These contracts are important, and the board has fought very vigorously to try to fund these to the greatest extent possible. And if we haven't done as much as we'd like to do, there's always the possibility during the year to look at those situations, estimate them, and modify them as resources are available to us. But I would match Westchester County against any other county in this state and how much we're committed to helping not-for-profits. I don't think there's another county in this state that does what we do to do that. We have allocated in this budget $90 million to help continue our efforts toward affordable housing. We've put online approximately 2,500 units of affordable housing. That's 3 times as much as was done as in the prior administration, and I think we far exceed what neighboring counties outside of New York City have done. And that $90 million, which is in the capital budget, is involved with things such as land acquisition, infrastructure improvement, and also now, and I'll credit the work that Joan McDonald and her team, Blanca Lopez, has done to create a housing flex fund, which may help us bridge a gap in affordability in financing a project so the project actually gets done. But when I'm with Nancy Barr and we drive down Regent Street in Portchester and I look off and I see a center for affordable housing for seniors that opened in the last couple of years, I'm proud of that. That's work that we've done. When I'm with Terry Clements in the city of New Rochelle and I look and I see on Garden Street, on one side of the street, a new family court building, but on the other side of the street, an affordable housing project, I know that we have had a positive impact on that. And the groundbreaking that we hope will happen in the next year, just up the block, Ben Boykin and Jewel Williams, who represent parts of urban White Plains, can look at that with pride that these are things they've advocated for that we're actually doing. We've also put in this budget money to help those tenants with eviction prevention and to make sure that people that are in that situation, if they're indigent, that they'll have legal counsel. And that's important in order to protect their rights. We have done that in a way that only the city of New York has done, and no other county in New York State has done that. We've created in this budget a director of flood mitigation and resiliency. And a number of years ago, before I became county executive, this Board of Legislators created a position for Director of Sustainability. We filled that position with Peter McCart. He has produced tremendous positive result in our environmental policies, and I believe that this position can do the same thing. And we'll go through the process of identifying the right individual, and we'll work cooperatively with the legislature to do these things. There are many other things that are in this budget, but I think sometimes what happens is so much of what happens at the federal level and to some extent the state level and then your backyard level in your home community magnifies the attention that people give to government. And when things happen and when they happen smoothly in a budget like this, it doesn't get the attention that it should. But what happened in this budget is important for everybody to see. This is an example of government working. There are people in this room who are registered Republicans, registered conservatives, registered Democrats. They found common ground. And we're all prepared to modify the budget as additional needs come up, but they found common ground. We did not descend into name-calling. We did not descend into the partisanship that we see so often at the highest levels of this government. And you have to prove to a cynical population that government can work. This is a small example. It's actually a big example of it as we look through the different things we do. This Board of Legislators has worked with the administration as we have negotiated union contracts for a union workforce. We have a major group of workers in the corrections field that have not yet closed on a contract, but we have closed on contracts in the last year since we last presented a budget to you for our CSEA workers, our Teamsters, our nurses, our district attorney investigators. Our police are still operating on valid contracts that were up to this point. And so this is a commitment to our workforce, even as it is a commitment to our officials and also to our communities. This budget, which I'm going to sign in a few seconds, is the work of a lot of good professionals, but the discussion and the debate amongst the Board of Legislators is a critical element of this, because what differentiates democracy from every other form of government is that you have a legislative function. I say that as an executive, but I spent 30 years of my life as a legislator. Every form of government known to mankind has had an executive. Might have been a hereditary monarch, might have been a military strongman that took over by force. It could be a religious leader. But what makes the difference is to have a legislative body of people that represent individuals in smaller groups of people so that you hope every voice gets heard. Every community gets heard. This board has an Hispanic representative on it. It has an Asian American representative on it. It has African American representatives on it. It has women. It has men. It has people across the geographic spectrum. And they've each been elected, not selected, elected by people in parts of this county. And they bring their point of view into this discussion and into this debate. So what I'd like to do now is have the opportunity to invite some of those members to come and share their thoughts about the budget and their priorities for the year. We do this understanding we may not all agree on everything, but we agree in democracy. We believe that this is the best possible way to govern the people of this country by giving them a voice in the decisions being made. So I will first invite the chair of the Westchester County Board of Legislators, Vidat Gashi, to come to the podium. Then in sequence, I will call on different other leaders to make their points clear. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Wow, it's an honor to be here. As a Westchester County resident with a family myself, I recognize that each dollar counts. And as chairman of the County Board of Legislators, I'm proud that we've maintained our commitment to keeping the tax burden in mind while making the great efforts to provide services that are going to benefit all the residents of Westchester. I'd like to thank County Executive Latimer and his team for presenting a balanced budget that shows our commitment to fiscal responsibility while carefully managing resources, while improving public safety, transforming our mental health care system, creating jobs, protecting our environment, and investing in our children's future, including the $990,000 that the Board of Legislators added this year for children with special needs. The budget truly represents our shared values as public servants and as Westchester County residents. I want to thank all of my colleagues, many of whom are here today, are going to be able to speak themselves, but especially chairwoman of the Committee on Budget and Appropriations, Jewel Williams-Johnson, for masterfully managing the oversight of this budget process. My leadership team, Vice Chair Nancy Barr, Majority Leader Jose Alvarado, Majority Whip Tyree Woodson Samuels, and two former chairs of the board that were here, Catherine Borgia and Benjamin Boykin. They were all helpful and insightful, and truly it was a group effort. Minority Leader Margaret Kunzio. This was a collaborative team effort, and really we couldn't have done it alone. So honored to be here, honored to be a small part of it. I want to circle back again to thanking County Executive George Latimer, Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins, Director of Operations, Joan McDonald, Emily Saltzman, Larry Soule, so many people, and including in our team, Gregory Casciato and Nally Restiano. This was a collaborative effort. Together, we were able to make it better, and that's why we were able to present a balanced budget on time when so many others wouldn't. And I think this is a tremendous service to the people of Westchester, and an honor to be a part of it again. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to call on all of them, just so you know. If you have a pot boiling while you're watching this, take a quick look when I come to the podium, but I want you to be attentive to each of them because I want each of them to have a moment to share what they feel. The person who was most directly responsible is the chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Other members of the board have chaired that committee. It is the most difficult committee because it is an ongoing situation. Every week there's something to be dealt with in this committee. Jewel Williams-Johnson, legislator from Greenburgh, represents a part of White Plains, Sleepy Hollow. I'd like to invite her to come. Madam Chair, the worst part of your year is officially over. Hopefully you can now have a Merry Christmas. Legislator.
Thank you, County Executive George Latimer, Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins. All of my legislative counterparts have worked cooperatively and collaboratively, and that means so much. It makes things so much easier. Our chair has thanked and named many, but I would be remiss if I didn't thank the Director of Budget, Larry Soule. He's been quite the godsend. I thank you very, very much. We passed a thoughtful, balanced, and sensible budget today that provides the services and meets the needs of Westchester County residents, and it does so in an efficient way. I'm so glad to be a part of continuing the history of a flat tax rate as far as property taxes are concerned for homeowners in Westchester. I really do feel this budget is a continuation of our emphasis on health, mental health services, on the development of affordable housing. You heard the programs that the county executive named, and as well as supporting environmental programs. This budget is also a catalyst for creating an even more inclusive economy. I'm so pleased we're continuing the child care scholarships, and I'm very excited about new initiatives, including the new Director of Flood Mitigation and Resiliency, and funding United's Way New Growing Together Westchester Family Resource Tool for new parents to ensure families have a good start and know all that is available to them for the success of children in our county. I really send a heartfelt thank you to my colleagues, especially those on the Budget and Appropriations Committee. We sped up the calendar and we had quite the grueling schedule, but we got through it and it brought us to today. So thank you for everything and thank you for this moment.
Thank you, Jewel Williams-Johnson, and her committee will probably meet the first week of the new year to start the ongoing review process. Before we go through the leadership of the board and then all the members of the board, I want to call up two members next for whom this will be their final budget. In one case, it's their first budget and their final budget. But we're losing a couple of members of the board at the end of this month, And we know that their public service is not over. We hope that there's going to be additional opportunity to see them in roles of leadership. But I would like Simra Brandon and former Chair Catherine Borgia to join me up here as they complete their tenure in this body. And however long or short that tenure is, it's been a distinguished tenure. Please, both of you come up and each of you speak in sequence. The Honorable Catherine Borgia and the Honorable Simra Brandon.
She lets me go first. I just want to say that I've probably been through about 12 budgets or more. And I have to say that this is the most calm, transparent, and quiet budget. The cooperation of my colleagues was tremendous. Someone said to me, "What about ad day? What happened on ad day?" Nothing happened on ad day. Ad day was just ad day. We all worked together and we got through it. Someone said to me, "Well, what about the night meetings?" No night meetings. Everything was cordial. This was the smoothest ride I've ever had for a budget. So I'd like to thank the county exec and the deputy county exec and all of my colleagues for allowing me to take this ride. Thank you.
So this is my 12th and final budget as a county legislator. I'm not going to say too much about it, but the budget process is always a very, very, very interesting learning opportunity. And I'm sure that, Simra, even after all of your years of public service, you know a lot more about how the county operates, having gone through the county budget process. One thing I will say is, although I came from a family that was always engaged politically, I actually became interested in public service around the issue of child care funding. When I had my first child, who's now 28, was when welfare reform happened, and there was a lot of things happening to working families that I didn't think were great. And I did a lot of advocacy on child care. It's how I got to know George. One of my memorable experiences early in my advocacy years was when he met us. He was you were a county legislator then. And we met in the elevator and he said, "Oh, Catherine Borgia, childcare." I was like, wow, that guy is amazing. But, which I still think. When I joined the board, I did say to my dear friend Ken Jenkins, who was the chair of the board, when the then county executive had proposed that parent share go to 32% in the budget that he presented the year that I was a county legislator-elect. And I said to Ken Jenkins, when I leave this board, it's going to be 5%. And it is not 5% because it's 1%. So all of the goals that we did on child care, so many other things we did, but I came here propelled by that reason. I'm so grateful to this whole team to allow, this is such an important issue for working families. We've dealt with so many other issues, and it's really been, as Ken Jenkins would say, a wild ride, but a good one. Thank you all.
Thank you both. Next, I'm going to ask my friend Nancy Barr, who's the Vice Chair of the Board of Legislators, to please join us for her thoughts. Madam Vice Chair.
So I stand here, and I've already heard from some of my colleagues who have thanked many of the people who have made this possible. All of my colleagues can be included in that, and as well, of course, as the county executive and his team and the deputy county executive. I just want to say that the thing that I love about being on this legislature and being a participant in the budget process is that all of my colleagues, and that includes colleagues on the other side of the aisle, really believe that government is here to help people, to make people's lives better. It is not the idea that government should sort of just go and hide in the corner and not do anything. We all believe that government has a place in improving people's lives. And we've done that in every budget we've had, and we've done it prudently, but we have really helped to lift up all people. We recognize that when children have a good start, they're much more likely to be successful, and it's our responsibility to help have the children in our Westchester County have the best opportunities that they can have, regardless of what zip code they live in or who their parents are or what their parents do. And we really follow that through all the way through their growth, and we also do the same for adults who have run into various problems, whether it is health problems, mental health problems, issues with the justice system. We really do. We work to create a world that lifts everybody up, makes their lives better, and then that makes everybody's lives better. So I'm so proud to be a part of this team, and I thank everybody who has contributed to making this another both sound but also caring budget. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to invite up jointly the Majority Leader of the Board of Legislators, Jose Alvarado, and the Majority Whip of the Board of Legislators, Tyree Woodson-Samuels. Gentlemen. Jose, and then followed by Tyree.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive, Mr. Jenkins, and thank you, colleagues. As Majority Leader, I get to disseminate what comes down to us as far as what we're going to do with the community-based organizations. And I like to say we did well. Not everybody gets what they want, but everybody in this budget is getting at the very least 3% bump. And I can guarantee you that this colleague sitting over here wanted to do a lot more. We focus on the special needs when we realize we got the auditor's report and we agree with some of their ads and deletes, and we disagree with some, and that is common, as you would know, Mr. County Executive, because there's a trajectory, and as the County Executive mentioned, some of us have served, and I like to think that except for legislation, I have served in every committee in this legislature. So we know the trends, and one thing we were able to identify in this budget very quick, and I kept on talking to the chairwoman, and I said, do you see anything extra here and there? There was not. There was not. But the best, and I think we end up with this result, is because we're not strangers. We're working among friends, along party lines, open communication. If I did anything, because I am also excellent as Majority Leader, if I did anything with any of you, is answer every call and answer every text. And that open line of communication, and not just with George and Mr. Jenkins, but with Larry, and the availability, and always keeping in front what is realistic. And that's what we did. Something that is realistic, something that we can live through next year, regardless of whatever amendment comes our way, and leaving a little breathing room because we don't know what's happening. By now, it's no secret what my biggest fight is going to be. I mentioned it at the meeting officially, and I am going to continue to repeat it. And we have the incoming, is it president of the Association of Counties sitting here, former Chair Ben Boykin, and I have summoned him to fight our fight, which is we are not supposed to be paying for Medicaid. Counties aren't supposed to. If you haven't read about it, read about the evolution from the federal government to the state to the counties. We deliver a lot of services, and we charge the taxpayers a lot of money to deliver local services. Medicaid is a national state program, and we shouldn't be paying for it. And if we don't fight it, we are in for good in future years, and I hope you join me in this fight. And my call is to Governor Hochul to please reevaluate your decision in this coming budget that you'll be looking at and help us we're willing to help. We are a cooperating county. We are a cooperating legislature administration, and we need your help, Governor. Thank you so much.
I want to thank everybody for this wonderful, wonderful process. You know, a wise man once said, a good negotiation is a situation where everyone walks away a little disgruntled. I think, you know, former Chair Catherine Borgia alluded to that notion earlier today. She mentioned, you know, good legislation, good budgets, you get about 80 to 85% of what you want. And I think that case rings true today. You know, teamwork makes the dream work, and we all have played our role. I want to give a shout out to our Chair of Budget, Jewel Williams-Johnson, and obviously our executive team, because we are co-equal branches of government, and it takes two to tango. And we got it done. And especially for a city like Mount Vernon, where so many are underserved and, you know, face tough economic realities. I mean, we all are in 2023, and that economic outlook is looking grim at best for the future. And I think this budget will address some of those economic concerns and will help everyday working class people navigate the future. So again, as WHIP, working with our leadership team, led by Chairman Gashi, I think we did a good job here. So thank you all, and onward and upward. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Next up, I'd like to invite two people who have both had positions that I have had over my career in the legislature, minority whip and minority leader. And when you're in the minority, there's a sense that the parade is going to pass by without you having any input. I know when the budget came out, I reached out to both of these individuals. I consider them my friends, and I invited them to share ideas, in which they did. Some of those ideas may be included in the budget, some may not, but this may not be the final word on what gets included over the course of a year. There's still a year to administer this budget and to try to make adjustments. But Margaret Kunzio, the minority leader, James Nolan, the minority whip, please come and have an opportunity to share your thoughts. Madam Leader. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to say a thank you to everyone. I think that we have been through all of the names, so I don't think that anyone that wants to hear all of them again. This is my 8th budget, and I have to say it was the easiest one. I first want to say thank you to my colleagues. Anytime you get 17 people in a room and you have to get them to try to agree and negotiate, it's never easy. Try just asking 2 people where they want to go for dinner. It's, you know. So each one of us is passionate about something. Emergency services, mental health, child care. But this budget addresses each one of them. There's something in there for the constituents of all of Westchester County. This was not a contentious budget. Everybody really negotiated, worked together. I thought that everybody compromised in a way, because you can't always get what you want, but you know, we tried. I want to thank County Executive Latimer and his team, but George, on a personal note, I want to say thank you. You reiterated that you reached out to everyone to listen to them, to try to include everything in the budget. And I think you exemplify and model what good government should be. You are the county executive that represents all 17 legislative districts and all constituents of Westchester. And you have made that conscientious effort to reach out to everybody, to work together, to come up with a budget that is a good budget. We want to make sure that it's not something it's pie in the sky. This is something that's realistic, something that's doable. The challenge with this budget, as Majority Leader Alvarado said, we do our budget before the state does. So it's very difficult, because we're hoping, with fingers crossed, that the state does the right thing. And that's always a chance that we take. But again, working with you, working with your team, working with the leadership at the Board of Legislators, I am very proud to say that I am part of Westchester County government, and I'm very proud to be able to say that I support this budget. And on a personal, George, thank you for reaching out to each one of us, and thank you for what you do, because you exemplify a good leader. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm just going to make it very short. Thank you to the County Executive and Deputy County Executive and the entire staff, the Westchester County Board of Legislators. This is never an easy process, but I think this is probably one of the easiest recent time. This is my second budget, but I didn't have any concerns or questions, but I definitely know that if I did, you would be expecting a call. Yeah, so would you. But this was a very good budget. I don't think anybody can argue a no increase in property taxes, funding our police, providing funding for our children, DSS, everything that you could possibly think, especially infrastructure. You can't go wrong with that. This has been a smooth process from my standpoint. Jules Williams-Johnson, you did a tremendous job as chair, so thank you once again for leading everybody. But just seeing how the budget came along, I couldn't be happier, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, James. Two more rounds to go. We have two other legislators who are here who represent the northern part of our county. Many times, if you live north of 287 or even north of that, you feel as if what happens down in White Plains doesn't really touch you, is not affected by you. It's dealt with by those people and it affects us. But these two legislators care deeply about the communities they represent. Colin Smith of Peekskill, Erica Lang-Pierce of Bedford, please come and share your thoughts on the budget. Colin, Erica.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. This is a tremendous experience for those of us, particularly who are on the Budget Committee, because for the last few weeks, we have sat ringside, listening to every department come before us. Plus, of course, we have people like Larry who come and explain everything to us as well, which is incredibly important. And every year that I've seen this happen, first as a position of a legislative aide and now as a legislator, I am just gobsmacked by the depth and the breadth of what we do here at Westchester County, as well as of the incredible talent and experience and depth of knowledge we have here. We have so many folks within our ranks who clearly have taken a substantial pay cut to be able to do the work that they do on behalf of Westchester County. And I am incredibly grateful to even be able to begin to understand all that, because it is quite a feat. As the county executive said, I don't know how to run a sewer system. I don't know how to run a bus system, but I at least now have enough of an understanding to be able to value those in our ranks who truly, truly do. This budget is a value statement for us, for Westchester County, and it's our roadmap. And to some extent, it's a living and breathing document, because we know changes may happen, the good and the bad along the way. But I know with the colleagues I have and with the administration we have that we will always make it work, because again, that also is a representation of our values. I want to speak briefly to the Capitol, because I am chair of Public Works and Transportation. When 6 years ago, when I first came in, along with Kitley Koval, who was then legislator for the district, one of the things we did was we put together a poster of various infrastructure disasters, I think. I think someone from, was it at DPW, said we really like to take pictures of the bad things in the county. Other departments, parks, takes these beautiful pictures. They take horrible pictures. This was a poster which was just a ton of horrible pictures. And through the time here, these last 6 years, we have done such phenomenal work catching up on that neglected infrastructure. We have spent so much more money on the catch-up work than we would have spent if we had taken it up initially when we should have. And I'm really glad to see us turning the page in that capital budget. It's a very different document from what it was even 4 years ago. Today we passed through two items that had 2014 dates, and I think we're probably at the very end of seeing those types of projects before us. This, again, is a value statement. Our infrastructure is our assets. They're our taxpayers' assets. They're the parts of the county that do everything from clean our water to bring our parks to life for all of our community members, and now we'll have green infrastructure, which will help make certain that our environment is better for the generations to come. So I'm really, really grateful. Thank you, thank you. Thank you to the whole team.
Thank you.
So I didn't know that we'd be speaking, all of us, today. And I didn't prepare anything except for, Karen, you want to bring that 3-ring binder up that I gave you? Just kidding. County Executive Latimer, Deputy County Executive Jenkins, and esteemed members of both the legislature and the county executives team, thank you for making this process as seamless as it was. I came up as, politically speaking, or in elected politics, as a school board member first, a city council member up in the city of Peekskill, and finally here to the county legislature. And going from a $70 million a year budget to a $2-point-something billion a year budget process was quite the education to get become familiar and with that process. But I just want to say that, and this goes directly to my specifically to my colleagues on the legislature, is that thank you for your willingness to take the time to go through the budget item by item and to make sure and to ensure that it reflects, as was just stated, it truly reflects the values and the priorities of the county. And although at times you may see some legislatures like myself look like we're about to fall asleep at the committee table, it has nothing to do with the fact that some of us are a bit more enthusiastic about this process than others, because at the end of the day, that's what makes for a good outcome and a good result. And my hat's off to you, County Executive Latimer, and your team for putting together this budget. And just all of the work that goes into it. The tentacles of county government really do stretch out in so many different directions. And as somebody who has now gone through, this is my 4th budget process as a county legislator, but overall I think I've gone through about 10 or 11 municipal budget processes, whether it was on the school board or whether it was at the city council level. I feel like I am still learning so much each and every time, just because of the monumental task it is to manage a system of municipal government, particularly a system of county government. So I'm very pleased with all of the things that you had stated before, George, about the priorities that we have in this budget. I'm so proud to be able to support our initiatives when it comes to childcare, when it comes to affordable housing, when it comes to public safety, to name just a few. Our initiatives in terms of infrastructure and in protecting our environment and being committed to our renewable resources and green infrastructure. I'm proud to be a part of that process. I feel like I've played a very small part of that, but a part nonetheless, and I'm very happy to be here and support that. And I look forward to your signing very shortly. So, thank you.
Thank you, Before I introduce the last 2 legislative speakers, let me recognize that we're joined by a legislator-elect, Judah Holstein, who is here, has been here, and this is just the beginning of a process. He has his official first budget next year, but he's been part of the process of observing, as has Emiliana Ulaj and Shanae Williams, both of whom will be joining the Board of Legislators effective the 1st of January. We continue to remember our friend fondly, David Tubiolo, who is serving his nation in the armed services and was not able to be here for the budget, but we expect to see him soon. We expect he's going to look pretty buff after all of this time out there in the military. So note to self, don't get into any personal altercations with a person like that. And I also want to extend my good wishes to the other 2 members of the board who had a different point of view on the budget, but Catherine Parker, Damon Marr are both colleagues and friends, and we wish them well as they approach the next stages of their life. Catherine will be continuing on her service for another term on the board. Damon is leaving the board at the end of this month. So let me now invite 2 more members who represent the city of White Plains primarily, along with Harrison and Scarsdale, the former chair, the Honorable Ben Boykin, and Terry Clemens, who represents a portion of the city of New Rochelle and the town of Pelham. So, Mr. Boykin, Ms. Clemens, please come and share your thoughts.
Well, good afternoon. The first thing I'd like to do is thank the county executive and the deputy county executive, George and Ken, for the outstanding budget they sent to us and to the hard work of their team. It made a difference. It gave us a good foundation so that our budget and our B&A person, our legislator, Jewel Williams-Johnson, the chair of that committee, could have something to really firmly work with and move in a good direction. And we moved through this budget rather quickly, and we didn't have a lot of bumps in the road, and everybody did get something. I'm very proud of our nonprofit partners because they're the ones that actually work with our families, our seniors, our children all across the county. So that's most important, and we were able to make sure that we gave them what they needed. Like one of them said to me, yes, we wanted a lot more from you, but I'm very happy we have something. I was very surprised when I was out and I'm thinking, oh, my God, you came and beat us over the head. And she was very happy with what she got. I'm not going to tell you who it was. So we've done our job, and I'm happy, and I'm very proud to be part of this legislature that gets the work done. And I'm especially happy that the ninth floor is like-minded. I'll just put it like that. And so that's why we get the job done, and it's well done, and we can look forward to 2024. And in that year, we're going to look forward, and I'm sure that Ben Boykin will talk about that, to make sure that we can remedy how we might have less less dollars, I'll put it like that, but Ben will probably talk about that. So we will think about going forward and how we continue to serve Westchester, and we will make it happen. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I want to thank the County Executive Latimer, Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins, Director of Operations Joan McDonald, Larry Souls, and really all the whole executive staff. And also to the Board of Legislators, for everyone rolling up their sleeves. Some people weren't at all the meetings, but you were there listening, thinking, and working through everything as we put the budgets together. So I'm going to briefly talk about the operating budget, $2.44 billion. We got the capital budget of $473.7 million. I actually know those numbers. We've also got the special district budgets of $281.7 million. So those are the budgets that we utilize for 2024, and the capital budget runs for 5 years. But the budgets talk about what are our priorities. What are we going to do for the people of Westchester County? Because that's what the budget was all about. What do we do for public safety? What do we do for public health? What do we do for community mental health? What do we do for those people who are hungry and homeless, have food insecurity, and other things in the county? That's what the budgets talk about. And George, you remember January 1, 2018, you came in with a fund balance of $38 million. We were broke, okay? When you've got a budget the size of ours and you have zero money in the bank, you have a problem. Our fund balance looking forward to 2024 is roughly going to be roughly $520-some million, about 18% of the operating budget. That's a tremendous amount of improvement over the last several years. It's a healthy fund balance. That's why, as the county executive talked about, getting upgraded from Fitch to AAA, and everything else going from stable to positive from S&P and Moody's. That is the reason why. But we've also got to be very careful as we look into 24 and we look forward, because we don't know what the federal government's going to do. We don't know what the state is going to do, which could impact our budget. And the majority leader was talking about FMAPs, about Medicaid. That's going to cost us $20 million in 2024's budget. We had a discussion on that last week when I was in Albany at the NASAID board meeting. We are very aware of those issues that are going to affect us. But there could be other unknowns out there that could affect the budget. So not only we have to look at 24, we've got to look at where we're going to be in 25 and 26 and strategically think about what we're going to be doing. But right now, we've got a wonderful budget that's working for the people of Westchester County, and that is what so important, and I'm very pleased we were able to put it together. You know, there's always controversy on every side. I want this, I want that, but you're right. You don't get everything you want, but you walk out with more than you had, and that's what's important. So I want to thank everybody for working for me. Thank you.
Now, I know if we were in Albany State Legislature, there are 213 legislators, this would not be possible. But I must tell you that we have interacted with every one of these individuals in so many different settings that there's a friendship factor when James and I are at an Eagle Scout Court of Honor, Margaret and I are in the Frosty Parade in Armonk, and Colin and I are at the Peekskill train station and all those kinds of things. You develop a certain relationship, and I wanted each of them to have this moment, to be able to express what they thought, and so that the people of Westchester, who may be watching still, will have that moment. And I want to say that our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins, is a leader like no other. He has been a partner, and if there's a 1 and 1A, this is it. It's pretty obvious what his leadership skills are in being able to interact with all of us. So I'd like him to share a few words before I close it out and sign the bill. Mr. Deputy County Executive.
I just want to add to the congratulations to the Board of Legislators first. Both the county executive and myself have been privileged to serve in the chamber. And while we're still trying to figure out what those chamber rules are and the values that we have, we know the hard work that happens. But the people of Westchester don't always get a chance to see that. And for the time that you all have spent from receiving the capital budget and doing the dozens of meetings there, and then through the hours and dozens of meetings going through the operating budget, listening to hours of public hearing to make sure that everything is happening, not let alone each one of you in your individual districts having discussions with the various folks that want to see different things happen. The work that you've done and gotten through this particular process, it sounded easy, but it is not. So we want to make sure to recognize that the hard work that you had to do to evaluate all of these things, and then the continuing work that you'll do starting in January to evaluate to make sure that the direction continues to be the same, is that level of partnership that makes a difference. County Executive George Latimer, so from day one when we walked into office in 2018, made a commitment that things were going to be different from the previous administrations and how things worked and operated. And that's from the openness and transparency to each one of the departments, the relationship with all 17 legislators in every district to make sure that everyone in Westchester would get the things that they need. And Budget Director Larry Soul and I had experiences in previous administrations, and talking about today's experience and how much different it is, not just because there's great leadership here on the ninth floor at County Executive Latimer, Joe McDonald, Emily Saltzman, all of our continued team up here that continues to do that level of work and understanding it takes a partnership to make things happen here in Westchester County. But every one of you that got up here and said how easy it is, I know Joe McDonald and Emily Saltzman and every one of the commissioners and the hours upon hours upon hours that are spent to make sure that it looks easy, because the work was put in ahead of time to give that opportunity to you to be able to have the transparency to get things done. That happens because we have a great leader in County Executive George Latimer in making sure that we're able to navigate through all of those things. And we have a record of accomplishments here in Westchester County across the board. So whether it was childcare, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's to make sure, and George mentioned the 2,500 units of affordable housing that have been built here in Westchester County, whether it's for infrastructure, whether it's for public safety, this county government has never had less money invested in it year after year. And at the same time doing all of those things that are so important to so many different people around Westchester County, to say that we were able to hold the line on taxes, reducing taxes 4 years in a row, and holding property taxes this year is an accomplishment that people just do not give enough credit for all of the work together, because it's the partnership between the administration led by County Executive George Latimer and all of you as far as a board of legislators to help us navigate through this particular process. And that's why we're in such a great position to be able to sign off on the budget in just a second. But again, the hard work the people of Westchester see, no matter where they are, no matter which part of the economic scale they are, whether they're up in Lewisboro or at Wards Pound Ridge or anywhere else, or whether they're down in Pelham or Portchester or in Yonkers or Mount Vernon, anywhere they are, they understand that the investments in the leadership in this county starts at the top with George Latimer, and looking forward to him signing the budget right now.
Thank you. It's a long session, but this pretty much wraps up the functional year for us and for our friends who will be able to celebrate the holidays. To have an hour-long session where everybody has a chance to express their feelings, I think is important. When I saw Judah Holstein sitting here a while ago, I reminded myself that it was 32 years ago, in December of 1991, when I sat in the gallery at the County Board of Legislators as a county legislator-elect, having been elected in the 1991 legislative year, and I watched the Board of Legislators of that day pass the county budget, discuss and pass the county budget. 32 years is a long time. My 38-year-old daughter was 6 at the time. George H.W. Bush was the President of the United States, to be followed by Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and now Joe Biden. A lot of presidents have happened over those 32 years. A lot of things have happened over those 32 years. It's a different world that we live in today. When I was sitting there, there barely was an internet. There was no social media. There was a host of things that made the world different 32 years ago. And I had no vision as I sat there as a 38-year-old man, and I was relatively young. We have under 40-year-old individuals on this Board of Legislators. I sat there as National Director of Sales of the company I worked in. I'd served 4 years in the Rye City Council, but I wasn't confident that I could wrap my head around what the county budget process would be. So it is, for me, an almost emotional moment 32 years later to be in this position, to be able to sign this budget. Not the first budget I've signed others. And I think of the first time I spoke to the Board of Legislators as county executive-elect, that period of time ago, and I said, when I looked around your chambers, that I looked around before I said anything, and I said, the author, Thomas Wolfe, is wrong. You can go home again. And I felt at home in the Board of Legislators chamber, where I had served 13 years of my life. That's a big chunk of years. And now I had the opportunity as a county executive. And I made a promise to myself, I didn't articulate it publicly, that I would try to find a way for us in an executive function, which we have to have the authority in an executive function to do the things an executive does, but there'd be a way to do it that didn't make legislators feel like they didn't matter. That it was just us running the show, and you guys were expected to just sort of be quiet and go along. Because I know that I didn't like that concept when I sat where you sit now. And when I was in the minority or when I was in the majority, even when I chaired the legislature, because even the chair of the legislature has certain defined powers, and there are powers that are still granted to the executive branch. About that time, a little later than that time, I post on my Facebook page different music choices that don't date to anything recently, but they mean something to me. There was an album that came out about that, a little bit later than that time, 30 years ago by Sting. The album was called 10 Summoners, Tales, and on it there are 2 prominent songs. The first one to reference is If I Ever Lose My Faith in You. And the writer of the song, he sings it, says, if I lost my belief in our church and science and progress. And he has a line in it that I never forget. I've lost our belief in our politicians. They all seem like game show hosts to me. And as a person in public office all these years, and you're in public office as well, I don't want us to be game show hosts. I don't want us to be smiling and turning the vowel and solving the puzzle part. I want us to be people of substance. I want us to know that we can help people in the different ways that means. And it means one thing in East Yonkers, it means something different in Mount Vernon, it means a third thing in Peekskill, and it means a fourth thing in North Castle. But whatever it means, that's why we try to deal with these problems. The second song in that album is a very lovely song. It's called Fields of Gold. And in it, there is the middle piece of it in which he says, I never make promises lightly, and there have been some that I've broken, but I swear in the days still left we'll walk in fields of gold. No one can promise in a public domain we'll walk in fields of gold. We have limits to our ability to do things. But the promise is democracy. That's what the promise is. The promise is that we can do better if we govern together than if we turn the power over to one person and that one person does whatever they want to do. I got to be the county executive. I don't want to be the one person. I want us to have democracy. That is why I asked you and you agreed to limit the terms of a county executive. That's why I invited you and you agreed to take the name of the county executive off every sign in this county. That's why, amongst everybody in this building, I have never taken a dime more in salary, because it can never be in democracy about one person. It has to always be about we. It has to always be building on the diversity of what this room is and what you represent out there in the rest of this county. And that's why every single one of you needed to come up to this podium and say something today, so that people understand that it is the we in Westchester that makes this county. This is the best county. We're proving it day after day. Not to insult other places, they have their own realities. But we constantly do things that other places don't do because of who we are and what we believe. And what we believe is not monolithic. There is room for adjustment, adoption. There's room for people with different philosophies to be able to find a way to have that impact too. It's a county, it's not a state, this is not the nation, but by God, what we're doing here is what we need to see everywhere in this country. By God, we need to see it, and we need to see it soon. Because people out there have lost hope. They think we're all game show hosts. So let us administer this budget wisely. Rocky days are coming, financial days are coming. We'll deal with it together, we'll deal with it in a spirit of mutual respect, and we'll use our intellect and our drive, and we'll laugh, and we'll be friends, and we'll argue, and we'll have our moments, but we'll get through this together. I don't know if this mic is on. Is it on? I'd ask the leadership of the board, Vedat Gashi, Nancy Barr, Jose Alvarado, Tyree Whitson-Samuels, Margaret Kunzio, Jim knows about everybody, and Jewel Williams Johnson. Sorry for the four of you that I didn't include. You can come up too. Come on up. Everybody comes up. Jimmy, you could stand two fellows down. You still got me. I do invite any other colleagues to come up. You don't need to have 5 people left in the audience. Before me is Act 237, 2023, which has been passed by the Board of Legislators of Westchester County. Come on up, come on up. Why would it be exclusive now? Jimmy has some space over here, too.
Well, you're not going to block me.
Guys, let's do this. Ben is going to miss the menorah lighting at Tibbetts Park. Right, Ben? Oh, I got you right on that. I'm on top of all of it. Act 237, 2023, passed by the Board of Legislators by 14 votes for and 2 votes against, certified by Malika Vandenberg, Clerk of the County Board of Legislators. It is approved this day, the 11th day of the month of December, 2023, and by my signature affixed to it, it now becomes law and fully operative. And I'd like to offer to the chair of the board, Mr. Vedat Gashi, to the chair of Budget and Appropriations, Ms. Williams Johnson, and to the majority leader, Mr. Alvarado, a pen. We now have a budget, my friends. Thank you. Congratulations. Hi, Ray, everybody.